Hi, I'm Rich with ISC'13. We're here in Leipzig, Germany at ISC'13, and I'm here with a couple of the principals from OpenSFS and EOFS. So guys, what's going on in the Lustre community? We just had a breakfast today. How's the community feeling? We'll start with Galen. What do you think?
I think the community is certainly more vibrant than it ever has been. We have EOFS and OpenSFS working very closely together on broadening the community. We've got more developers in the Lustre community than we've ever had in the past. I was looking at some recent statistics that Intel put together, Peter Jones from Intel, about the contributions to the core code base from developers around the world. And we have contributions coming from almost every continent now, and we have substantial contributions coming from major centers. So it's really increasing the open source nature of this product, making it safe for the long term for users of the system. There's no one single owner of Lustre anymore, which I think really improves the community aspect of the code base and the features that will be developed. We're also seeing a broadening of Lustre into other areas outside of HPC. We're seeing big data being applied to major big data challenges. In particular, we're seeing Hadoop plugins for Lustre being developed. And we're also using Lustre even at our site at Oak Ridge National Lab to handle not our HPC challenges, although we use it certainly on the largest scale platforms at Oak Ridge, but also for our major experimental facilities, where we're using it because of the capacity that we can deploy, multiple petabytes to store very high value experiment data sets from major facilities at the laboratory. So I think it's quite bright. We're seeing a lot of interest in Lustre, and we're seeing it get to a level of maturation that we're able to tackle challenges beyond just the mid-scale and high-end HPC markets, but also to the broader commercial space.
I can agree what Galen said. And if you saw the participation this morning, 7:15, so early, the room was filled with people. People went out, they showed up because they know exactly we need Lustre and we need the participation. And Lustre went through quite tough times, as Galen and myself experienced. And since these days, everybody was really committed to keep Lustre alive and make it an even better solution. And as I said in my opening remarks, think back what happened since Lustre user group meeting in Aptus. We saw Oracle buying Sun. We saw WAM Cloud being founded as a small company. We saw finally WAM Cloud going into the Intel family. We heard just recently that Xyratex was buying Lustre assets from Oracle. So there is a lot of development going on. We had OpenSFS formed, we had EOFS formed. So the last 3-4 years were quite challenging. But in the end, if you see it from a retrospective point of view, it was very successful. So
it's almost ironic. I mean, one might say that the breakup of Lustre and then the reformation of Lustre into a true community development effort was perhaps one of the best things that could have happened for the technology.
See, sometimes out of a crisis, the real good things show up. And I remember I was walking in the garden of the hotel at Lustre user group in Aptus, and I saw so many participants saying, what's going on now? What will be the future? And as Galen said, the future is better than we ever expected it to be. And again, I highlighted the momentum you have with Lustre. Lustre is like a triangle. You have the community as one corner point. You have industry, especially WAM Cloud, Intel and Xyratex, strong contributors. And you have, on the other hand, the broad user base, big labs, big research entities who also contribute, beside using Lustre, to the development. So our job, Galen and his board, as well as my job and the job of Jacques Charles-Fougrier, my colleague in EOFS, is to keep that triangle in a balance. Now we have that strong industry, with Intel and Xyratex. We have the community by OpenSFS and EOFS, and we have the contributors and the users, and we all saw them today on stage. I'm quite happy what we experienced today, Gail.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you'll see, Rich, in the coming months, some significant investment on behalf of OpenSFS and EOFS as well. We're moving forward on really putting together a vibrant community portal around Lustre. We're making some strategic investments in lustre.opensfs.org to provide a community portal for content for Lustre, and we'd like to see long-term this integrated with lustre.org potentially. Now that that's been acquired out of Oracle from Xyratex, so I think there's opportunities there. We'll be moving forward on marketing. We're getting to a level of sophistication within the organization at OpenSFS and EOFS on putting together a very strategic marketing plan that will allow us to push Lustre and communicate the value of Lustre beyond just the HPC market, but into the broader big data space, and really communicate the not just the niche it fills in HPC, but the broader area that it can address in terms of the challenges of the big data and commercial markets.
I wanted to ask you about that, Galen, because you mentioned that you're moving towards a terabyte a second file system, this real hero kind of capability out at Oak Ridge, right? But how important is it for your future as as a lab and as OpenSFS to broaden that community with people like bankers and stuff starting to use Lustre and
I think it's fundamentally critical for the longevity of the technology, and as well as meeting some of our core requirements at Oak Ridge National Lab. So Dr. Sarp Oral at Oak Ridge is leading up the deployment of our 1 terabyte per second plus file system within the National Center for Computational Sciences with over 30 petabytes of capacity, and it will continue that Lustre needs to scale to meet the highest end of HPC. And we have a clear path towards that direction with what we're doing with the Fast Forward project. But there's also recognition, and critical recognition, that Lustre also needs to fill the broader commercial space and the broader big data space. And so we're making strategic investments in terms of manageability of the Lustre file system. We're moving towards a much more predictable release model. We already have, in fact, of Lustre releases, with maintenance releases coming regularly, stabilization of those releases, so that vendors can confidently take the community release that OpenSFS and EOFS has endorsed and integrate that within products that meet the highest end of scalability for sites like Oak Ridge and CEA and Jülich, among others, but also to be able to address the broader big data space, where you may simply want to deploy Lustre because you can aggregate tremendous capacity at low cost. Right? You don't need the same bandwidth and scalability requirements in terms of node count, but you need that deep storage system to be able to store the immense amount of data that's being generated and analyzed in today's enterprise.
And let me add an experience I had just recently, a couple of days ago, when we had a joint executive meeting, OpenSFS and EOFS, and it happened in Chicago. So the last afternoon before my flight back to Germany, I could walk a little bit around Chicago downtown, and in the McCormick Center there was the largest international cancer research conference, and it was just finished. So everybody came out, and it was thousands of people, doctors, and I immediately had that feeling. They have to handle so many data, and it's going to be more and more and more. They need a parallel file system. They actually need high performance computing in general.
Yes.
But they need, for their information to be computed for the best of their patients, they need a parallel file system which is scaling, which is robust, which has a lot of features in it for the best of society. So, with other words, what we do here has really an input not only in the HPC community, but I think, in many areas of society.
I mean, you look at Oak Ridge National Laboratory as an example, right? We have multiple different initiatives, from material science to neutron science to energy, climate. We're using Lustre across all of these enterprises, and not just for HPC. And so, you know, your question earlier, how critical is it for us to get the not necessarily enterprise features, but certainly commercial-oriented features, stability, manageability within the Lustre product? It's just absolutely critical. So I think we're well positioned. We've got an architecture moving forward with the Exascale initiative under Fast Forward, but we also have the continued evolution, stabilization, feature-rich development that's being funded by OpenSFS and others, to ensure that we have a product that will meet all scales. I think it's quite exciting times, and now that we've gotten Lustre to a level of stability and maturity where we can start addressing those areas, I think you'll quickly see our investments compound quickly. Right? We spent quite a bit of money, developer resources, getting Lustre to the level of stability to where it is today. But now we have a stable base on which to build, right? So we have a foundation that we can quickly start adding additional features that are much needed.
Great. Well, it sounds like the future is bright. Would you agree, Hugo?
Absolutely, but it doesn't mean we have to stop our work now. What we agreed in the meeting in Chicago, as well as in our meeting yesterday here between OpenSFS and EOFS, since we have that basis now very stable,
yes,
we can concentrate on the technical issues, as Galen mentioned, but we also should concentrate on that community aspect of Lustre. We should never forget it's a community-driven open source initiative, this kind of openness and community involvement. As you saw it this morning for the breakfast meeting, that people participate is very important. It's crucial to keep it for a bright future. Now, our role is now, with members of the board in OpenSFS as well as members of our board in EOFS, to have a look towards the future. I said we are like in a triangle. So how can we get the best and stable architecture and infrastructure between the community, which we represent, with the vendors, with industry, and those users, but also those developers inside the centers, and to keep that in a balance and make it open for the future. That will be actually a work we do in meetings until the Lustre Administrator Group comes up in Paris, and we would like to show to the public and to our community some kind of results at SC in Denver. And we continue that process because we want to see Lustre's future even brighter.
And so I would say, you know, stay tuned. We're working together to really move the needle and move Lustre forward with, I think, much to be discussed and shared at SC and future events.